What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy VAXX, man. We back, season 2. We've been in the kitchen cooking. Of course, I got the homie, the Brody, the Cuddy, none other than Sean Majors. What's up, my people?
Man, glad to be here, my brother. Season 2, full effect.
Season 2, full effect,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes,
Season
sir.
2, full effect, man. Now, as you see, man, we done tighten it up, man. You know, we done upgraded, as you would say, man. On the screen, you see here one of my guys, man. This guy, man, at Livingstone College, Salisbury, North Carolina, 701 West Monroe Street, man. You know, we played football together. We broke on family. But not only was he a great athlete, he was a great student. And from there, he's gone on to become a great husband, a great father, and a great pillar in his community. I want y'all to welcome my man, my homie, Dr. Mike Griffin. Let's get it.
Yo, what up? Congratulations, bro. Season 2, man. Y'all did it, man. Y'all boys is making moves, man. So necessary. The conversation, the love, it's all there, man. Appreciate y'all.
Man, we appreciate you for, wanting to come in and be a part of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, me and you definitely have a great relationship. You know, I've always admired some of the work that you've done, not just on the campus, but in your community. And I feel like this topic, I had to come and reach out to you, man, and have you drop your expertise. So before we get into that, man, we just kind of want to tap into some of the trending topics. So, I got a musician right here. Sean Majors got an album out,
Man.
couple mixtapes, couple EPs. So, I'm going to ask him, man, a couple artists have dropped some projects here recently. You got Kanye with Donda. You got Drake with CLB. What's your take on them?
Man, but first of all, I'll just say it's a great opportunity for music right now.
Facts.
Period. We ain't had none of the GOATs really drop music in a long time. So I'll start with Donda. You know what I mean? Impressive when it came to production and storytelling and just creativity. My fellow Gemini guy did his thing. As far as lyricism, it was lacking a little bit, but the feeling, I completely got it. Certified Lover Boy, man, is to me Snoozer. Snoozer. He only had 4 on there that I like, man. I wanted to see that boy go. And we made love ballads this whole time, man. So it stayed true to the title, but I'll say this, both album covers were trash, bro. Both of them were trash. So, hey, the kind of music is good. It was a good weekend, but overall, man, I expected more, bro.
I can do that. Mike G, what you think?
Yeah, them covers was trash, man. I mean, I get Kanye. I get Yeezy, though, man. I mean, he give you the non-traditional album covers. Like, I remember the other joint where he had the disc on the front. Like, he don't really give you. I think his last best album cover probably was like, I say probably My Dark Twisted Fantasy was probably like the one that had the most like look. Now he just was like whatever, just threw a black screen on there. I don't know what the hell Drake was doing with that. Like everybody taking it, and I done seen so many like different just versions of it, and I don't know, it's one of them things where it's just that Drake effect, man. They just do something and everybody just jump on it. But I agree, the album cover is whack. CLB, man, I'm on listen like 1.5 right now. I'm kind of halfway through my second listen. It's one of the ones. It's the first time it ain't really. It just kind of was like, huh? I fast forwarded a couple of tracks. I'm not even gonna lie. Couldn't even finish it.
Man, I agree with both of y'all. Like, I'm not gonna lie, for Drake to have like a 3 or 4 year hiatus, I thought that we would get a little bit more swag out of him, really address some topics. You know what I mean? Like head on. Instead, but I think he's being true to the art. He's making music for the ladies. He's not really a guy to really address things and bring personal beefs, to the track. So, he made music for the ladies. So, I can't be mad with that. Kanye, I felt this was a grieving album. Also an album to like really catapult him into being an international star. I mean, he's already an international brand with the Yeezy clothing line and even with music before. But I think if you really listen to it sonically, he's really starting to transition to that, any culture, any race can play my music per se. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm trying to think about the lead up to it, like the whole Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta situation, living in that's marketing.
Kanye's a marketing genius. Like I'm
Genius.
not gonna. If you can sell out the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the Falcons can't, then you know what I'm saying. You gotta,
Buddy.
you really gotta put some respect on that man's name. Then he did it not once but twice, and then he goes to the Windy City and does it as well. So you really gotta, put some respect on Kanye's name because, you know, he goes into a hiatus and, you know, we might not hear from him unless he goes on a rant. So it wasn't that bad. So, you know, after the music, I'm not going to lie, man, this is the weekend of college football. I know you're a VTech fan. Y'all had an impressive W yesterday, you know,
Pretty impressive.
against
the
you.
boys was ready. They just was on another level. The dog was just in them. The dog was, you just tell. You could just tell when a team you could just tell when they got it, bro. They hit speed harder. They talking more. They flying around. Like, UNC was just like, nah, we going to play our same old ball. We already overrated. And then VTech Dog came out and was just like, let's get in them rankings. Let's go.
Okay.
That's how we do, dog.
So what y'all going to do this
year? I'm a VTech fan, dog.
What y'all gonna do this year? Y'all gonna win the ACC?
I mean, I ain't gonna go that far. We got all the young players on the team. You know, just being honest, man.
Understandable.
I think we're gonna compete. I think this is gonna be a good competitive year. We got a lot of young players. You know, we just really it's starting to re-solidify ourselves in the ACC. Like, once we start getting deep into that conference, that's what it's really gonna tell. But I'm gonna hold off on saying when. Nah.
All right, now
maybe third.
Who your NFL team? For the people, for the fans.
The Buccaneers of Tampa Bay, Florida, man. World champion Buccaneers of Tampa Bay. Led by Thomas Edward, Patrick Brady.
Cancel the podcast.
The GOAT?
The GOAT.
The GOAT, bro. There's no denying it, bro. And we brought back every single starter, bro. Every single starter is coming back. If that don't mean repeat.
Repeat? That's what you said?
Repeat.
Who gonna beat us?
Oh, we got something to say about that.
We got
something to say about that.
In the AFC?
Yeah. Let's not act like the NFC South is really making noise. Bro, let's not act like that because if my memory serves me correctly, y'all had to go on the road all 3 playoff games, right? So that let me know y'all wasn't making no noise in y'all conference.
At all.
Now y'all won,
yeah,
let's not act like y'all were a juggernaut. Okay.
Whoa.
Week 13.
You gotta put some respect.
Week 13 showed y'all that y'all not a juggernaut, bro. Y'all showed what can happen.
I mean, it happens to the best of us. Look at the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody said Patrick Mahomes was the GOAT. They were trying to put him in the same conversation with Brady.
I mean, when you miss in the offensive line that's gonna protect you, that was there in 13, it'd be a different story. But it's all good.
It's all good. Y'all won. Congratulations.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
Have y'all seen that ring though? Did y'all see the ring?
No, we still looking at the one we got.
Yeah, right.
We still looking at the one we got. It ain't got no dust on it now. It don't have no dust on it. It don't have no dust on it.
2 years, a little dust, bro.
Nah,
it's
1 year.
A little dust. It's a little bit. It's not cover. It's a little speck.
Okay. Hey, man, listen, man. Well, now that we got all the particulars out the way, listen, man, now, the topic of the day, man, I really had to tap in with you being in the medical field, man, is the coronavirus. You know, you've been very outspoken on your social media platform. Even when you and I have talked, you know, you've really, you know, have exposed the medical field and the technology and the advancement, you know, of medicine, you know, to help us combat this. So what I want to do today, man, is really to inform, you know, and educate our audience on the pros and cons of the coronavirus and the vaccine. So my first question to you is, what exactly is the coronavirus and where did it originate from? Because, you know, we have all these type of myths, theories, and conspiracy theorists. So could you, you know, with your expertise, let us know where it originated from and what exactly the coronavirus is?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm just honestly thankful for you even wanting to consider this as a topic, man, because as you can imagine, just being, you know, a young black man that's in this field, that's what I've honestly spent the past 2 years doing. Like, I've worked closely with COVID, whether it's directly managing a student health center now, to writing policies, to hiring doctors and nurses that's worked in these ICUs. Because I was living in New York, you know, right when the pandemic first started, man. All the stuff you saw on the news, like, it was real. Like, I got people that, you know, I used to work with that dying, like legit dying. Like, I could probably say 15 or 20 people that I worked with when I was in New York that died from COVID. So it's real. Like, it's one of them things where the information or lack of information that's been coming out, or misinformation, I think it just created the challenges that we're dealing with now. But it's important when you talk about like you said, coronavirus, and people really understand what it is. So coronavirus it's almost like a family of viruses. So when you say coronavirus, you're not talking about just one thing. You're talking about something that's already been here for thousands of years, like SARS, MRSA, the common cold, even the flu, all fall in the category of what they call coronaviruses. Now, SARS COVID-19, which is what we're dealing with right now, is a severe acute chronic respiratory disorder, hence the SARS. And the COVID is the coronavirus shortened name. The 19 was the year that it was actually discovered, or the year that actually came out and started affecting people. So that's essentially where the name came from. And when we talk about coronavirus, like I said, it's a family of viruses, almost like STDs. You got a bunch of STDs. You don't just have one. All those are sexually transmitted diseases that all transmit, interact, respond, infect your body the same type of way. And that's how coronavirus is. And it's essentially a virus that's passed through droplets in the air. It's airborne. So when you spit, when you laugh, when you cough, when you just talk, spit comes out. And in that spit, if you're infected, you have the COVID virus in those air droplets. Mm-hmm. And if those air droplets come in contact with your air, they essentially get into your nasal cavity first. That's why when we first were doing nasal swabs tests, they had to go so far back because the virus lived in all parts of your respiratory tract. But the highest concentration of the virus was in this part of your nose, this anterior part. So that's why the swab had to go so far in the back, and then it had to come so far in the front. But when that virus gets into your body, it lives in the upper part of your nasal cavity first. And then over time, if you are immunocompromised, where you have diabetes, or you're obese, or have heart disease, this process will happen a lot quicker. But essentially, that virus lives in your nose area first. And if you're like me, or you, or the majority of people in America that get COVID, you're probably not gonna have any symptoms. Like, you're probably gonna be okay. But if you're somebody who unfortunately isn't, which we're starting to see more now with these breakthrough infections with this variant, that virus now travels from the front part of your nasal cavity down your esophagus and actually into your lungs. And that's where that damage really happens. Because when it gets in your lungs, it starts putting fluid, little sacs of fluid inside of your lungs, which decreases the amount of oxygen that you're able to breathe in, which in turn impacts your organs because your organs need oxygen. So if your lungs are not producing enough oxygen, first you're going to have lung failure, then you're going to start having organ failure because your organs have not gotten the amount of oxygen that they normally need to survive. So COVID is a cycle, and people don't just die from COVID. Like, when people are in the hospital, they're usually dying from pneumonia, from flu, from some other type of infection, or they're just dying because one of their organs shut down. So rarely do you actually die from COVID, just like HIV. Like, you don't actually die from HIV, you die from AIDS.
Okay.
Shit's crazy. Can I curse up here, man? I should have asked.
You do your thing.
Yeah, do your thing, bro.
What's the rating for this, man? Why are y'all rating this?
It's an adult, man. You good, man.
Oh, okay.
You
okay,
good.
I was just checking, man.
All right. Man. So you kind of answered some of the questions that I already had, as far as like, how does it affect the body? What are some of the symptoms? You didn't mention any of the symptoms. Could you give us some of the symptoms? Because some people that have tested positive for the virus, may not have had any symptoms. And then you have other people that have, they have experienced symptoms. So, like, if you haven't, like, what are some of the symptoms that coronavirus gives off?
So right now you'll probably see two different categories in the news or on social media or somewhere. We have people that are symptomatic and you have people that are asymptomatic. So people that are asymptomatic are like what I mentioned, the majority of people that have catch COVID, where you'll contract it, you'll test positive for it, but you'll never have any of those symptoms like high fever, difficulty breathing, chills, sweats, headaches, or cough. You won't ever develop any of those. And that's what we call asymptomatic, which means you actually are a carrier for COVID. So you can still transmit it to other people, but you just don't develop any of those symptoms that I just named. But then you have another category called symptomatic infections. And those are people where they actually catch COVID and they develop some of those symptoms that I've just mentioned. And that can range from just a cough. It can range from a fever. It can range from, think about flu-like symptoms, except on top of having flu, now you have a more difficulty breathing. And the problem is that depending on your age, depending on if you have any other underlying issues or diseases, that asymptomatic virus that you got, those symptoms, they can turn into you now being symptomatic. And that's what we're starting to see more now. We're starting to see more younger kids, more younger adults, college-age students that before were contracting COVID and they would just be okay. They would just have to quarantine and isolate and they'd be fine. But now we're starting to see more of those young people and children actually get sick. because of this virus and the variants that it's caused. But like I said, and we believe COVID actually got here around the end of December. But if you go back and look, there were people that were reporting having severe like respiratory illnesses like September, October, November. So a lot of people believe that there was a form of COVID that was already here before we actually diagnosed it. And I remember in particular, I got like really sick like in November, and my wife did too, and that's when she was pregnant. And we both just got this cough for like 2 or 3 days that was just like this dry kind of, it sounded like it's mucus in it, but it's really dry, and it's like a deep cough where you feel it like in your lungs. So a lot of people think they actually got COVID without even being tested for it, because we just don't know exactly when it got here. But like I said, it can happen different for anybody. Like you can experience no symptoms, you can just have a headache, you can just feel just completely out of it. Or you can end up in the hospital, and that's the place you don't want to end up.
Do you have any questions, Sean?
Yeah, you mentioned a lot as far as when it comes to age and things of that nature, like looking at it now. So a lot of it, I feel like, was catered to elderly adults in the beginning and making sure they were protected from that nature. But those with kids, it makes it seem like, oh, you don't have to wear a mask when it comes to certain ages and things of that nature. Like, how did that come about to where the younger generation, we're not necessarily focused on them being treated with some of the vaccines and things of that nature now versus the olders?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it really comes down to just the belief we have as far as our immune systems and how younger people are more inept and able to fight off certain infections. I mean, when you just think about us at our age, even when we was younger, like in college and high school, like we can just do whatever. We can drink all night, smoke, do whatever, get up the next morning, good. Like if I'm not in the bed by like 9:30, 10, I'm getting up, my neck hurting, my back. That's what happened with age. And that's essentially what we're seeing with this virus. That's why so many young people who catch COVID, especially college students, don't ever get sick, because your body does develop an immunity against COVID. Like there's no true treatment for it. There are certain like interventions they could do, but there's nothing where you can actually treat COVID. So what happens when younger people usually get it? Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish. My bad, doctor.
I was gonna say, just so when so many young people get it, they don't ever develop any symptoms because their body is able to naturally fight off what COVID is doing, because your body's gonna respond.
So
but if you're older and you have a compromised immune system, your body might not respond.
So does working out and eating properly, would that help aid in fighting off the virus?
No. Not to the point where if you have contacted COVID that you're going to go to the gym and speed up your recovery. Now, the prevention efforts you do well before you ever unfortunately catch COVID, yes. So if you're somebody who is more active now, has a more balanced diet that's not full of fat, salt, stress as well plays a part. So if you're somebody who is relatively healthy now, your chances of getting sick when you get COVID go down. But once you catch COVID, there's nothing you can do. There's no natural treatment. You see people now are taking this horse medicine. Trump was like, put some lights in the body. And there's nothing you can do like to treat COVID once you get it. But there are things you can do to be preventive to make sure that if you do get it, you're okay, like getting a vaccine. I know we're going to talk about that.
Right. Well, I'm glad you said that, man, because it kind of leads into, the vaccinations and things of that nature. So now, like you said, we have the Delta variant, and, like myself, I'm vaccinated. But I've heard reports of people who have been fully vaccinated still contact the virus. Can you answer that question? Can you still catch the virus if you're fully vaccinated?
Yes, and I think that's one of the failures of our government, the entire public health community, is that they did not do a good job of educating and passing this message along to the community. The initial purpose of the vaccine was never to prevent you from catching COVID. That was never the intent of the vaccine. The intent of the vaccine was to significantly reduce your chances of getting sick and developing SARS, which is the infection of COVID. So the idea was that if you do catch COVID and you're vaccinated, your chances of going to the hospital significantly decrease. And they have. That's what we've seen in the past year since vaccines, well, not since the past year, since early, March, I think, when vaccines first started becoming available. People that are still testing positive with COVID, we're significantly seeing the numbers that are hospitalized go down in vaccinated people. So it was never to prevent you from catching COVID. It was simply to stop you from getting sicker if you did catch COVID. And we're seeing that play out. If you go to probably 45, maybe 42 of the 50 states, and you look at the people that are hospitalized right now with COVID, I say just about every state, minus maybe 3 or 4, the overwhelming majority of people in the hospital right now with COVID are unvaccinated. Like overwhelming majority. I'm talking about like 92, 93% of people in the ICU right now with COVID are unvaccinated. There are still people that are catching COVID that are vaccinated, but they're not going to the hospital. Like back in March 2020, if you went to the hospital for COVID and you went on a ventilator, like you probably were going to die. Like that was the statistic that was going to happen. But now we reduced the number of people that catch COVID from going into the hospital. And that's what the goal was. So it was never to stop you from actually catching COVID, although it can reduce your chances. It was ultimately to stop you from going to the hospital or actually dying if you did catch it. And that's what it's doing, it's working.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like I said myself, I'm vaccinated. One of the reasons, that I'm vaccinated, my parents are older. They do have one does have a respiratory situation, respiratory history. So, I definitely wanted to make sure, not necessarily for myself, but to protect them, and I guess ultimately now as this Delta variant goes out, it is important, that I protect myself as well. Now, you mentioned something that the government did a bad job, right? So I'll ask you this. Why should we trust the government, when they've been known to mislead people? You can look at the Tuskegee experiment for an example. And I think a lot of people have a misconception. I think people feel like the government gave those Tuskegee airmen syphilis, when in fact, half of them already had syphilis. And I think that's a big misconception. So I wanted to make sure that we informed everybody that the government did not give, the Tuskegee airmen syphilis. Half of the airmen already had syphilis. The other half weren't treated, that had syphilis. So that's how that went about. But understanding that the government has been very misleading, especially the minorities, black people, especially black women, why should we trust the vaccine at this time?
Well, you shouldn't trust the government. I don't ever. They have shown us not to trust it. Slavery, like it was government. Jim Crow was government. Reconstruction was government. Civil rights was government. Brown versus Board of Education was government. Equal voting rights was government. Busing to different regions was government. Gerrymandering the districts was government. Tuskegee experiment was government. Henry the Last was the government. How they discovered how to treat women in OBGYN procedures was a slave owner experimenting on black women. It's all government. So no, you should not trust the government at all. I don't trust anything hardly the government says. What I do trust is the science that the government is bringing to us. So the government rarely does any of these things. Like these are independent scientists that happen to work for either government, private agencies. Moderna and Pfizer are not government agencies. They're privately owned pharmaceutical companies that got large grants from the government to conduct these studies. So no, you shouldn't trust the government. But you also shouldn't trust Facebook. You shouldn't trust your uncle, cousin, baby daddy who knew somebody in New York and said the hospitals was empty. You also shouldn't trust YouTube that says that Bill Gates is buying up all this land and has put microchips in the vaccines to make people sicker, and it's a plot to take. Our government's not that organized. Like, have you ever tried to go on a government website? It's horrible. You went to the DMV? It's horrible. Like, we change leaders every 4 years. Just think about that. How much sense is that?
Right.
So every 4 years, you get a new leader with a new agenda, new ideas. If you're talking about Trump and Biden, like completely different ideologies. So just the fact that we change leaders every 4 years, that don't even make sense. That don't make no sense whatsoever. But we're going to trust them to tell us to take a vaccine. That's the craziest thing I ever heard. So no, you shouldn't trust the government. But you should trust the science. You should trust the scientists. You should trust people that look like you that are subject matter experts. Now, I'm not bragging, but when it comes to community health, public health, healthcare administration, disease mitigation, epidemiology, biology, like I'm a subject matter expert. And that's a fact. Like I'm not bragging. I'm not hyping myself up. I spent the past 15 years of my life either working or learning about how to deliver public health programs to people and how diseases spread. So trust people like me, because I'm not going to say anything to lead the people that look like me wrong. And you know that. So trust people that look like you. One of the people that developed the Moderna Black vaccine was a black woman. Like the clinical trials that led to us knowing how effective these vaccines are on black people were held by almost 60% of black people in the clinical trials. So in the example you used with the Tuskegee experiment where they withheld treatment, that was a small segment. The Henrietta Lacks issue where they took her cells was in taking something from her. Tuskegee was in withholding something. COVID is us giving you a vaccine. It's not taking anything from you. It's not withholding anything from you. It's not even touching your DNA. The vaccines have no contact with your DNA. It's what we call an mRNA vaccine, which is a messenger. So the goal of a vaccine is to carry a message. So what the vaccine has done was created this message of what COVID does. So when it recognizes it in your body, it knows how to respond. And there's no natural immunity that your body can do against that. So in those two instances, the government is not trying to take something from you. It's trying to stop you from spreading this virus to white people. Just being honest. That's what it's about. I'm sorry. That's what it's about. Because if there's something that's killing black people more disproportionately, like is not a push for it. That's what's happening now.
All right,
look at the vaccine rates. It's ridiculous.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of people say that they don't have this type of concern when it comes to cancer, when it comes to the flu shot, or any other epidemic that we're going through, heart disease, even the opioid and alcohol and drug addiction. Like it's not a pandemic then, but for some reason, like you just said, because this could kill white people, now it's a global pandemic. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you said that, a doctor, an expert, in those fields, that could...
No, it's true. It's true. It's true. I mean, not me being an expert, but all the things you just mentioned. But just to push back a little bit, all the things you mentioned, like cancer is probably one of the most funded diseases ever. Like we do cancer awareness stuff every month. The American Cancer Society is one of the most funded nonprofits in the world. The American Heart Association. So there are efforts on large scales towards some of those things you just mentioned. The difference is that it's not killing people at the rates that COVID is. Like I can walk in the room right now. How many people in the room y'all in?
About
7 or 8.
The Delta variant infects up to 7 or 8 people from one person. It has a 1 to 8 ratio of infection. The original strain of COVID had a 1 to 4, which means that you would likely infect 4 people you came in contact with. The Delta variant doubled, which means if I came in there highly infectious and just sneezed, I could probably infect everybody in that room. Which means when you all 8 people leave, y'all are going to infect other people because now you have the Delta variant strain that you got infected from me. So there are more people being infected at a quicker rate. So that's why there's so much attention, because we want to stop killing all these white people. They are dying breed. I mean,
yeah, they stink. Everybody's mixed with melanin now, so
everybody. It just take one drop. That's it. It take one drop and it's a wrap. You're not white anymore. Yeah. That's a dangerous thought. That's why they storming the Capitol, because they worried. Yeah. And we're not talking about that.
Right. So I got a question real quick. When it comes to like individuals that look at the coronavirus and we look at statistics, so I know you mentioned science and looking at the numbers and how it's affecting black folks. So I think we look at it from a standpoint that at some point 99% survival rate or 98% survival rate, no matter what. So some people take the approach like, why would I take a vaccine for something that I'm more than likely to survive from? So a lot of people are taking that approach to where if I'm taking care of my body, I'm doing the right things, I'm living my life right, the common cold, flu, whatever, I can survive this. But what you're saying is it doesn't matter. So if you could elaborate a little bit to those that feel that this is something that we could just solely survive.
Yeah. I think the thing to consider in that is death the worst outcome? Like is dying, are we all agreeing, and not saying us 3 right here, but are us as human beings, are we agreeing that death is the worst outcome that can happen from catching COVID? And if you say yes, death is the worst outcome, then to your point, yeah, if I'm 94, 95% chance of not dying, then yeah, my concern with COVID is very minimal, because death is the worst outcome from COVID in my mind. But for me, death is, yeah, it's bad. It's not a good outcome. But I also don't ever want to catch COVID because COVID-19, this strain of the coronavirus, we still are finding out stuff about what it does to the body. There was a study that just came out about a month ago where they tested people that caught COVID but never had any symptoms. So the people that didn't get sick, didn't go to the hospital, but caught COVID. And they did studies on them. They did CT scans of their lungs. And those people who never had symptoms when they had active COVID in their body had about a 40% less ability to process oxygen through their bodies. And they also noticed these small sacs of fluid attached to their alveoli, which made it difficult or more difficult for them to breathe when they participated in like high intense exercise. So I'm saying all that to say is, yes, it's very rare that you will die with COVID on a large scale, looking at the entire population. But if you catch COVID, will you develop symptoms later on? We don't know. We also don't know what it does to other parts of your body. Like we're just learning about what it does to your respiratory system. But we also have seen COVID impact the brain, the liver, the stomach, like your sex organs, the COVID virus, because it's a virus, it attaches to cells, so we can go to all cells in your body. So I will say, yes, your chances of dying is very slim, especially if you're young and relatively healthy. But what will COVID do? Like, how will it present 5 years from now when we learn more about it? Like, what happens in a year? It's going to be like The Walking Dead, like I Am Legend. Like, we don't know. But if that happens, like, I'm going to be one of the people that's going to survive, bro. Like, real talk.
I feel
you got to go to the gun store, the pharmacy, and the grocery store, like in that order. Get your gun, your medicine, and your food. Because melanin protects us from turning into zombies too, by the way. That's a scientific fact.
All right, so let me.
See, black zombies, bro, it's rare.
You never
out of 100.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. Hey, let me ask you this. In your personal opinion, as a doctor, working on college campuses, working in your community in hospitals, and you see the effects of COVID, knowing that you've lost people, close friends to COVID, do you feel like the vaccine should be mandatory?
Yeah, I do. I didn't always feel that way, but I do. Because people argue, my body, my choice. I shouldn't be, forced to have nothing put into me, this, that, and the third. But when you look at just all of the stuff that we put in our bodies on a regular basis, even as a child, when you had to go into elementary school, most people that went to public school had vaccines. And we look at the viruses that we vaccinated against, they are no longer really in existence. You know anybody that's ever had polio?
No.
You know anybody had polio?
Nope.
Rubella?
No.
Maybe. Whooping cough?
No.
Nobody in your elementary school had whooping? Had the whoop? They called it the whoop whoop. Nobody had that?
No whoop whoop.
No whoop whoop. Okay. All those things are gone because of a vaccine. And the COVID vaccine that we're using right now, Moderna, the mRNA vaccine, Pfizer, are the most sophisticated vaccine we have ever had as far as what they do, how they work, and how effective they are. 94% effective against being hospitalized against COVID. The polio vaccine, the chickenpox vaccine, they still not even in the 90s as far as efficacy. And that's after years and years and years of development and research and evolution in that process or that byproduct of a vaccine. So I trust the vaccines enough because of the science behind it, the efficacy, and what it's designed to do is doing, like a fact. And disproportionately, we as Black people are dying, like disproportionate, like not even close.
Is it due to our own negligence?
What you mean?
Like, like not getting the vaccine, not wearing a mask, not doing the things that we should do to be proactive with not even just catching any types of diseases, whereas, like heart disease, lung disease. So is some of us with the African American community catching the coronavirus, is it due to some of our own negligence?
I think like personal decision probably plays maybe 15% in it for us as African Americans. And that's unique to us because the reason we are usually disproportionate in these outcomes related to health started long before your ass went to McDonald's and fed your kids chicken nuggets 5 days a week. Like it started way before that. It started way before you stopped wearing a mask. It started way before that. Like most of the things that put us in these conditions to be disproportionately impacted are socioeconomic. It's the communities you live in. It's the fact that white communities had access to vaccines almost a month before the majority of black communities. It's the fact that when you look at messaging on TV, we rarely represented the PSAs around vaccines and getting tested. It's because of some of the underlying health conditions that we as African Americans have: diabetes, heart disease, obesity, sleep apnea, asthma. All of those things, like, is a buffet to COVID. Like, if you got all of them, COVID is running up. It's just like, what's up, bro? Let me get some of that diabetes. I don't know if that's how COVID sound, but if you got all of them, like, it's a wrap, bro. Like, if you got diabetes, you obese, and you got high blood pressure, and you catch COVID, we're gonna be talking about you in the past tense. And who disproportionately has those diseases? Us, because of the foods that we eat, because of the food that's available in the communities for us to eat, because of our socioeconomic status, because of who we elect that writes the policies for the lunches that's going to our kids.
Man.
I mean, I can go on and on, bro, but it's so many different levels and layers that already put us in a bad position to experience COVID worse than anybody else. And if you look at the life expectancy, like, this is the first time since World War II that our life expectancy has decreased. The last time our life expectancy went down, it was World War II. Like Hitler, Mussolini, Pearl Harbor, that war. That was the last time. And now, because of COVID, our life expectancy has went down as Americans. And who y'all think it went down the most for? Like, who got the worst life expectancy?
Not the people from Wakanda.
Definitely not.
No, they good. They already got a cure for COVID. They're just not sharing it, though.
Yep.
That's what they do. They keep all the stuff to them. They like them dudes in what was that dorm in the front of Livingstone that had like 10 people in it? What was that, man?
Dodge.
Dodge. Yeah, Wakanda's like Dodge. They just be in there doing whatever, all sleeping in the same room, bro. It was like one room in that dorm, bro. It was 20 dudes in one room. At least we had our own room, right?
Right.
That's Wakanda. Dodge was Wakanda. They're not sharing nothing. They're not sharing those secrets, dog.
All right. Hey, man, listen, we're going to slowly but surely wrap this thing up, man. Listen, you know, like, I've done some traveling to other countries here the past month. And one thing I've noticed is that the hygiene aspect in other countries is up to par. Like, you wash your hands, you get sprayed before you walk into anything, like any building, especially any public building. How important is hygiene when we talking about preventing or spreading COVID?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely important. And that's probably why you have seen the flu numbers go down this year and last year. Like, you haven't really heard anybody really catching flu, like, because we are washing our hands more. We're being more mindful when we're around people. More people are wearing masks. So those chances of your respiratory system being impacted significantly go down. Like, I used to wash my hands, but I really like wash my hands. I got hand sanitizer in the car. I got a bunch of different masks. So we all, as people, are being more safe in spite of our numbers continuing to go up. COVID doesn't necessarily live on surfaces. So, I mean, your chances of catching COVID by touching something and then coming in contact with yourself, it would have to be like a wet surface. So it would have to be something where COVID is in like some water on the cabinet or something, and you touch it and it comes in contact with your mouth or eyes or something. But your chances of catching COVID off a surface is slim. But the hygiene thing is important, man. Like, vaccination is probably the number one important thing. And then masking, I would say, is second. And then definitely the hand hygiene piece is probably third. Otherwise, we just going to have a whole bunch of variants that just keep popping up. It's never going to be over. Like, it's just going to continuously be bigger, stronger, super COVID that is just a beast, bro. Like,
all right, man. So,
a beast, man.
So, man, listen, man. First off, again, I appreciate you coming on here and educating us on, you know, the vaccines, the virus, how to protect ourselves, some of the agendas behind it. If you would, man, I'm gonna give you like, you know, about a minute, man. You have some closing remarks. You can educate us on some things that we need to know about the health industry or about protecting ourselves in this pandemic, and, you know, things we could kind of look to moving forward. So I'm gonna give the floor to you, and then I'm gonna give the floor to Sean Majors, and then I'll close it out myself. So, Doc, the floor is yours.
Yeah, definitely, man. Just first off, man, respect to y'all for just putting this together, man. Not even just this conversation tonight, but just the platform that y'all have developed and are growing, man. excited to just see y'all dudes just keep working, man. And it's a good look. We need more African American men having this conversation and educating people. I would say that this COVID virus is probably one of the most detrimental things to our Black community in a long time, on top of just some of the racial unrest that we've seen over these past couple of years. But when you really put the health of our community in the spotlight and what impacts our health the most, this virus attacks the things that we are already dealing with, like I mentioned, from diabetes, obesity, heart disease, all of the things that kill us as a community. This virus is attacking that. And if I can just share one thing, it would be to advocate for this vaccine. And don't just take my word for it. Like, really do information. Like, really go get information. Really inform yourself and make the best decision that's best for you and your family. But like I said, the only way that we're going to return to like normal or get back to the things we love is to stop this virus from continuing to evolve and get variants. And we do that by having as many people vaccinated as possible, by continuing to wear a mask whether you're vaccinated or not, and continuing to distance as much as possible, because you don't know who's vaccinated and who isn't. And like I said, whether you're vaccinated or not, you can still spread COVID. Your chances of doing it go down, but you can still spread it. So like I said, I just want to see us just have this pandemic behind us and us to have stop losing people. We already lost 4.5 million people to a virus that was completely preventable. We're still losing people because of the decisions that they make. But we're going to get through this, because this has happened before, almost 100 years ago, and we've evolved and we're going to learn, and we're going to have more Black people making decisions. I'm not saying white people can't make decisions, but we need more us at the table to consider us, so we won't be second-class citizens like we tried to be positioned in this country for so long.
Man, Sean.
Man, there's a couple things. I definitely appreciate your time, brother. And for me, this was an eye-opener for me. I'll be completely honest. I'm not vaccinated. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, though. And I tell people that all the time. It's just learning the facts and being open-minded. You can't sit here and say, I'm going to choose one side or the other. You have to get all the facts before you can make your decision. And I think you hit it right on the head. You have to make the best decision for you and your family and the others around you. So for me, this was definitely what I needed as far as information. And I challenge the people to be open-minded. Quit criticizing others for the decision that they make. They're making the best decision that they feel like they have with the education or information that they have. So I appreciate your time. And for me, this was very informative, brother. And keep a clean house. Take care of your babies, man. For me, Sean Majors, man, love yourself.
Oh, man, I appreciate that, Sean. Well, I'm going to bring it on home. First and foremost, man, stay off of Google, stay off of YouTube, and stop listening to people that don't have a degree or that aren't an expert like my dog said right here. You know, because most of y'all don't have a friend that has a PhD anyway. So, subtle flex for you and I. You feel me, my G?
That was a flat. I respect it. It's the truth. I can't lie.
Facts, right? Secondly, we're not here to tell you what to do or what not to do, but what we're trying to do is get you to open your mind, to open your heart, to think about not just yourself, but the people in your family and the people in your community. Think about how detrimental that this disease has been, not just for the country, but especially in the African American community. Think about our kids have gone back to school. A lot of us have returned home to work. And some of us don't have the necessary health care providers to protect us in case we lose somebody in our family. So you need to keep that in mind when we're doing this. If you choose not to be vaccinated, which is totally your choice and nobody's going to look at you differently, just make sure that you're taking the right precautions with washing your hands, social distancing, wearing your mask when you're in public, and just being cognizant of what you do and what you don't do. If you are vaccinated, please don't walk around like you have an 820 credit score.
Not immunity.
Because you still can,
You get 20 points on your credit though when you get vaccinated.
Don't
They
go.
give it to you in increment stuff. It's like 5 every tax year.
Okay. So you can't walk around and try to feel like you're better than anybody else, because you have the vaccination or that you're pro-choice. Like I said, different strokes for different folks. But again, man, lastly, we want to thank all our fans who have been patient with us through season 1, through season 2, You know what I'm saying? Like, we really look forward to growing. We really look to being more interactive and really building our presence in the community, not just in Kansas City, but in Atlanta, where Krishan is an alumnus of Clark Atlanta, also in Salisbury, North Carolina, where Mike G and myself are alums of the Livingstone College. You feel me? So, hey, listen, man, it's all love. We want to say we appreciate it, man. You know, we're going to get back in this kitchen cooking. You know, season 2, episode 2 is going to be on the way for the 1 and not the 2. Sean May, just get us up out of here, man.
Man, we rocking, bro. I'm so excited to be here, bro. Excited for my brother here. Hey, man, season 2, y'all better be prepared, bro. It's uncut, raw. We're going in. You see the vibes. People that upgraded, bro. Hey, Cash got money now. You roll.
I don't have no money. Hey, Mike G, we appreciate you, man. I really appreciate it, man. Listen, man, I'm definitely proud of you, bro. Like I said, man, you're a great pillar in your community, a doctor now, but most importantly, man, you're a husband, you're a father, and you're a leader of your people, man, and that means more than anything, man. So big respect, man, peace and love, man, and I really appreciate you tapping in with me, man. Peace, bro.
Exzachly My Point Podcast.